Welcome to our channel. Hi there, my name is Ranjan. I am a full stack DevOps engineer with 11.5 years of experience working in IT. I am also a 4.5-star rated Udemy instructor teaching more than 72,000 students worldwide. On this channel, my goal is to make you learn and grow by sharing my experience. So if you like my work, then do like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe this channel for more such awesome videos in future. So let's get started. Thank you. Welcome. Let's try to understand what is a database. So if we speak in a very plain English term what is a database, it is a store of data where we can store data in formats like rows and column. So this is column, this column, this is column, and these are rows. This is a row, this is a row, this is a row, and this is nothing but a table. Similarly, if I have another table which can store some other information again in the same row and column method, then we will call it as another table T2. So let's say this is T1. And this also has column which are vertical items like this and row which are horizontal items. What if I have tables like this on this page and I have more tables in another page like this? So this is also a table, but this is in another page. Similarly, there is another table, but this is also in another page. So what is this called then? These two now. Well, this is one database which has this is one database which has T1 and T2 as table, and this is another database which has this and this as table. There can be more table as well. So if we try to understand with a very simple example that we have in our real life or day-to-day world about database, then we can open Excel. Let's say this is one of my Excel sheet. This is a database, let's say, and this database holds information about certain categories under which some candidates are being rated. So this is a database table. Similarly, I can create multiple tables. I can create another sheet, so this becomes another table. What if I create a completely new Excel sheet? So that becomes another database and that can have multiple sheets. So you can say every Excel is a database, and in each sheet that we store is a database table which stores data in columns and has rows as the information or the values. So here I am saying skill name communication. Dinesh scored this much out of this much, Lokesh scored this much out of this much. Similarly, I can have another table. And similarly, I can have altogether a completely new database if I have a new Excel file. So now we need to understand where does all this database live. So now we know in a database we have many tables and tables have data stored in rows and columns. There can be many tables and similarly we can have multiple databases, but those databases should also run somewhere. Otherwise, how can we use them? So that's where we can say there's a concept of database server where all the database are running. So if we try to understand closely, so there is a database server under which we can create multiple database. This is a schools database. This is another database. This is, let's say, food delivery system database. Let's say Zomato. And then in each database, there can be tables like student table, teacher table, rows and columns which will store the data. And for teacher table, rows and column which will store data. And for, let's say, this database, there will be different tables, category, menu, order, user, and then each of them will have some columns and some rows to store the data. And different tables can also have relationship between them. In one database, let's say in this Zomato database, this user can place orders. So one user can place multiple orders. Hence, there can be relationship as well between the tables. So in very simplistic term, this table can have some relationship between this table. So these kind of relationship can be established in relational database. So this kind of database where we store data in the table and form in the row column form, and these tables can have relationship between them, between their data. These are called relational database, RDB, relational databases, because they can have relationship between them. So far we are clear that there is a database server, and each database server can host multiple databases. Each database can have multiple tables. Each table can hold data in the row and column format, and this table can have relationship between them. That's why they are called relational databases. And they all can run together in the same server. There also exist non-relational databases, which we are not going to talk about now, but there exists NoSQL database. So now these databases exist and these have data in the row and column format in tables. So there should be also a language or way to query this data, or let's say create this table first of all and create some columns in this table. Similarly, create this table, create some columns in this table, and then insert the row of data in them, then select or read the data from them. So these kind of interaction that we want to do with this relational database, for that we have a language called structured query language, which is called SQL, structured query language, which helps to interact with this table. Like we can create this table, we can say how many columns it will be, which column will be of what data type, and what will be the length of the data that will be stored, how many columns will be there. Then we can see if this column has a relationship with this column or not. Then we can insert the data in these columns. We can select or query the data. I can say give me only those items which are this and this for this column or that column. So those kind of all the operations that we want to do with a particular table or multiple tables, we take help of a language called SQL, structured query language. So this was the basics of what is a database server, what are databases, what are tables, what are rows, columns, and how the tables can have relationship between them, and what is the language used for interacting with tables in the database, which is SQL. Now, this database server can be of different companies. The different companies provide this database server. So, one of the most popular one is MySQL, which is free open source database server. But we also have Oracle, which is another popular one. We have Postgres, which is another one. So all these are databases server where we can create databases and tables, rows and column, and with the help of SQL query interact with them. So this is it for this video. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's try to understand with an example of different tables that we can have in a database. And we will take an example of a food delivery application like Zomato. So let's say we have following tables, which is category table, menu table, orders, and user. So let's see what are the different columns it can have and how it can have different columns and what are the rows it can have. So let's go ahead and see that. With example, we will not go into any database, we will not do any query or write any query. We will just understand all this with simple real world example in an Excel sheet. Similarly, we can do this, we can do for any other table. So let's take this example. So now I am here. So if I say I want to create a table with category, so I will give the name of the table, which is category table. There should not be any space when we are creating it. It should be with underscore, but this is an Excel, so I'm showing you this way. And there should be columns. So column, here we have the first column. This is called as column. The vertical things, remember, are always columns. And what is left, which is the horizontal ones, they are called as rows. Okay. So now this category ID is of a data type, which we are seeing is storing numbers. And this category name is of type characters, which is that's why it is storing some string or character data. So here we have different categories. Let's say category ID 1, which has non-veg as category name, category ID 2, which has veg, and so on. In this table or any other table, we have something called as primary key column. If you see, this column is a primary key column. Usually the ID column, we keep that as primary key column. And when we make a column as primary key, what happens is it gets a condition. It has to follow a condition. And that condition is it should not have null values and it should have unique values, which means I cannot keep here something as empty here and say, let's say Chinese. I cannot have a category with primary key as empty or null. I cannot. This is not allowed. I cannot have this value as null and this as this because this is a primary key. So this is not allowed for a primary column. Primary key column should always have a value. So in this case, let's say I will have 6. Another thing that we cannot have in the primary column is if the ID 6 already exists, I cannot have again an ID of 6. This is also not allowed. That's condition of primary key. Primary key column should have unique and not null values. So unique means we have to change it to 5. Or it can be anything but unique. And it should not be null. So that is the condition. Alright. So now let's go to another table which is our in this which is a menu table. So in the menu table we have again a primary key column which is menu underscore ID. Again its value will have numeric values and it will have menu name, menu description, another column menu price, and you see there is one extra column which is mentioned with category underscore ID underscore FK, foreign key, not primary key, foreign key. So what it will do is it will relate this table, it will link this table to this table. That's what it will link, which means when I say category ID 1, this chicken curry belongs to category ID 1, which means 1 represents non-veg. That's what it means. If I say corn soup, this one belongs to category ID 5, which means I have to come to this table and say category ID 5 is starter. So corn soup is a starter. But I'm not storing starter directly here. The reason is we have this concept of primary key, foreign key is because we don't want to repeat values. So let's say this category table has other three columns, and if I would have mentioned starter there, then other two columns values should be also get repeated. So what we do is we keep one column's data as is, and we refer the other column. Inside the other column we refer that column with the help of the ID, and that ID value is nothing but the primary key's ID value that we will take and put it in the foreign key column of other table. So in very simplistic term, in this menu table, what we are doing is we are just adding extra one column where we will keep the values of category tables primary key column. So we are storing these values in the one extra column of menu table like this. Then in the menu table, we will call this column as the foreign key. So in the menu table, we have a category tables foreign key with the name category underscore ID underscore foreign key. And if it is a foreign key, then its value can be null. Like see here for this, for noodles, there is no foreign key assigned. So it can be null. And its value can be also duplicate. See, this is 1 and this is 1, which is common sense. Chicken curry can be non-veg. Chicken biryani can also be non-veg. So its value can repeat. So what we know, foreign keys can be null values, can have null value foreign key column, and they can have duplicate values. Both are allowed. So now we just saw that we can create tables. Table can have columns and rows like here. So this is a row, and this each row is also called as tuple. Tuple. Each row of data is called tuple. So this is a column, this is a column, this is a column, this is a column, but these are row like this, all this data. And the rows are also called as tuple. And one table can have relationship with another table. So what we are saying here is one menu item. So here the category table is acting as a foreign key in the menu table. So many menu items, more than one menu item can belong to a particular category. So if we see an example, so chicken curry is one menu item which belongs to category 1. Biryani is also belonging to category 1, which means many menu item can belong to same category. Many menu items can belong to one category. So the relationship between category table and menu table is many to one. Many menu belongs to one category. So that is the relationship we have. We can have many to many relationship between tables. We can have many to one to many, and one to one. So there are four possibilities that we can have. Similarly, we have order table. So let's say if somebody places an order, then order table will have its own primary key and order date, and it will have the user ID, and here we can keep the which menu he ordered. We can keep the menu ID as a foreign key. Similarly, order details and order user table. So user table will be stored as a foreign key in the order table as an foreign key. So it's like the this order is being placed, order 1 is placed by user ID 1 at this time, date time. And what are the details of the order ID 1, which we can see in the order detail table. So here, this is a foreign key. This is the primary key of order detail table, and this is the order ID. So in order ID 1, the menu 2 was there, order ID 1, menu 3 was there, like this. So we are seeing these foreign keys can have repeated values. So we have two foreign keys in this table, order detail tables. So this is how we can create different tables in a database, and we can establish relationship between them. We can store data in rows and columns. So this is it for this video. Thank you for watching.